me 1 second. Sorry. You guys are live.
Good morning. I call to order the Design Review Board for Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. The first item on our agenda are the minutes of August 3rd, 2021. Are there any corrections or questions about those minutes? Okay. If not, I would entertain a motion to approve. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The next item is Guild Hall. As you know, there was a weather problem that day. We approved it on 8/19/21. Due to bad weather, the temporary light projection show was held on yesterday, I believe, on Sunday, rather, 9/5/21. Do I have a motion just to approve what we already did?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Here, we'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you so much. The next item is the 34 Hunting Lane. And is the applicant present?
Yes.
Okay. 34, I'm sorry.
34 Hunting.
34 Hunting.
Oh, I beg your
That's
pardon. We're 94. Sorry.
Yeah. The window application.
I don't see him here, but I emailed him if he's having trouble with the Zoom that he can call in. So maybe
Okay.
just skip him for now.
We'll skip that application. Okay, and the next item is the Hunting Hospitality LLC at 94 Main Street, and the applicant is present. Can you describe the project?
Hi, my name is Gerard Pico. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Okay, in the application we submitted, I put a scope of work proposed, new sign. If you have it in front of you, does everybody have that?
Yes. Yes.
If not, would you permit me to just read through quickly and we could go back and address each one?
Okay.
So here's the overview, 94 Main Street, proposed scope of work, installation of a new sign, removal of the existing sign at the front of the property. I've attached a photo, and to see this, it's in the same exact location. There's tree removal, remove one existing tree that is dying. It's split in a Y and poses a hazard to the neighboring property. See attached photo, and see the drawing for the location. Pathway globe lights and tree lights. We're wishing to install 30 25-watt equivalent LED pathway lights. Those are marked in blue on the drawing. Install 8 carriage lights. Those are to replace the existing globe lights, which are mounted in pairs at the top of the columns at the entrances on top of the coping, and 2 pathway entry at 4 at the driveway exit. So there's 2 entries, sidewalks on the Main Street side. I beg your pardon. And then, I'm sorry, there's 2 and 4 at the driveway side. So at the driveway side, which faces your building, there are 4 globe lights. And then there's 2 on the Route 27 or Main Street side.
On the audio, not the video, not the audio.
Okay. And then under the tree where the flag is, there's 2 cherry trees. Where the driveway entrance is, we wanted to put some lighting there because as our passengers disembark and embark in their vehicles, and then also, of course, the flag, the installation of 6 14.5-watt tree flag light at the side driveway area, and that's also indicated on the drawing. There are existing Ballard lights throughout the parking lot. Right now, they're not working, and it's really, really dark in the parking area. So we're proposing to install or replace the existing 17 Ballard lights with 25-watt max incandescent or equivalent LED light bulbs. Those locations are marked on the drawing. Then the cedar fence, replace 400 lineal feet of existing picket fence. We're seeking to match existing. So whatever was put up, whatever they started with that vinyl, we wanted to match the existing fencing, and install clear cedar Gothic point 2.5-inch space picket with a 4x4 post painted white to match existing. And we've also indicated the paint we would use: low VOC, low sheen, low luster, acrylic, latex. And then just closing out, I think we talked about the new sign. And we had one item that isn't on the scope, reference to the driveway. We wanted to apply an emulsion to the existing driveway, and then install or apply 3H bluestone gravel, which would adhere to the emulsion. We thought that would be aesthetically a great fit, and then also in lieu of blacktop or just putting macadam down, we thought it would be just as far as the sensibility for the historic district, a pretty appropriate improvement. So those are the items in our scope of work, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or go through the specs or any questions that you guys have.
Okay. Bob Hefner, would you like to comment on, let's say, the sign? Hello?
I think he's on mute.
Okay.
Oh.
Hit the wrong button there.
Oh,
So
okay.
I haven't actually seen the application or the sign, but it sounds like everything that's being proposed really has no impact on the historic district, on the house or its setting. It's just things. I'm glad to see the picket fence is going to be cedar painted white.
Yes.
The globe, the lights, I think that doesn't really matter. These are probably actually more appropriate than the globes.
Okay.
Those lights. So as I said, I haven't seen the sign, so I can't.
Oh, the sign, yes.
Sign
This
is
is
up, right?
This is the sign. I'm sorry, can you see it?
That's the proposed sign?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. That's very
Okay.
nice. Yeah, very.
I think it's already there, right?
Yeah, and in the spirit of transparency, that sign was installed already, unfortunately, without approval. Here's the old sign.
Right.
It's in the same exact location, in the same frame, and here's the new sign that was installed. So
Yeah.
old and new.
New. And it's the same size, am I correct?
It's the same size. Also, the lighting is toned down. As you can see, the lighting in this,
Yes.
it's just this gigantic incandescent bulbs in there,
Right.
and not uniformly lit. This is uniformly lit with LED and very quietly, just a very subtle wash of light and not spotlights
Okay.
like they had inside.
I think it looks nicer.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Bob Hefner, is there any other items that you would like to discuss here as far as?
No, Hunting in? No, I think everything looks good.
Okay, great. And Tom, is there anything that you would
Um,
like to discuss?
Thank you, Robert. Hello to the board. I'd like to, thank Gerard for realizing the importance of your board and its purpose, the purpose that the board serves. And going forward, we would, of course, like to take the normal path of getting approvals first before anything occurs, for example, putting up plastic fence, but I understand that's going to be cedar and that's not of my purview anyway, but just in general. The other comment I have is this, that we want to be sure that the lighting is close to 3,000 kelvins. I think, I guess I could speak on the board's behalf, or maybe not, but anyway, I think our intent is to have a warmer, softer, closer to yellow appearance rather than a stark white. Well, that's what the code, I'll speak for the code.
Yeah, so Tom, you had originally examined this and determined that the lighting was not up to code, right?
Well, yes, I mean, as what was proposed didn't seem to be, I don't see it being shielded. So that could be an issue.
So then whatever
It speaks
lighting is proposed has to be shielded. That
Yes,
a
as
condition of
proposed.
any, that would be a condition of any grant, right?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
I would think so, yeah, yes, to be code compliant, yes.
Okay.
So it's the pathway lights that are not opaque. Is that the issue? Because it looks like, well, I guess the column lights are not either, but the ones for the parking lot seem to be opaque. Is
Yeah,
that,
the bollards seem to be okay, but it's just the lantern type where it's just, it appears to be clear glass. The code does prohibit that. And the uplighting into the trees, the code speaks to that as being prohibited as well.
If I could address, because we want to be very sensitive, I live in this community, been here 15, 16 years, have a family here, and I actually was a history major. So I love historical architecture and very proud of this iconic project. So we want to make sure that these are compliant. This is a dimmable. This is the flag and tree light in the parking area where we're trying to wash some light where passengers and guests embark and disembark. So we wanted to create an atmosphere where there's enough light where they can see and it's safe, and also put light on the flag and the landscape. There is a shield around the sides and toward the top. This is also dimmable, so we can make this basically the candle power or lumens.
It's still an uplight. I don't think we're here for a negotiation. It's either code compliant or not. And I appreciate your, being in the community for a long time. But we can
Look, you have to
blow in the face.
Yeah.
You have to comply with the
understand.
code. It's as simple as that.
All right, so no uplighting whatsoever.
No, that's not, I believe, what our building.
Well, I mean, I had sent you the code, so, yeah, correct.
Okay.
And I believe, Mr. Chairman, that our planner
Yes.
had a concern as well. Bill?
Okay, yes, Billy?
I said one question about the tree removal. And I was wondering if because it looks like it's right on the property line, or it straddles the property line with the neighbor. Have you talked to the neighbor about removing the tree or notifying them?
Yes. Yes, and I appreciate the question. They've asked us to remove it.
Okay.
So we just didn't want to touch it without running it by the board.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, and again, in the spirit of cooperation and transparency, there's a large maple tree that we're going to trim, and that's really maintenance. But again, we just want to make you aware of what we're doing and be in compliance. I know we're not required to do talk about maintenance, but we're going to just trim that up a little bit just to get a little more light and air and make it safe as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you did communicate with the neighbor about the tree removal. That's all.
Okay. It's my understanding that the code for uplighting is a maximum of 25 watts. Am I incorrect?
I do have to look. I don't recall any uplighting, and I could stand corrected, but I will check that right now, actually. Yeah.
And one of the
Okay.
problems with dimmers is that nobody ever keeps it set at the right thing. It's either going to be too high or it's always going to vary. So the idea of having a dimmer on lights for a restaurant or for a business like that is, I don't believe, a good idea. It should be all of the lights should be set with the proper wattage.
Understood.
And if it's going to be a 25-watt incandescent bulb, then it should be an on and off switch, no dimmers.
Understood. Two things. The bulb is 17.5 watts, and the dimmer is actually this set screw that is removed and set at the fixture itself, which would be electrician would have to set this. So that's about as, we can make the fixture do exactly what we want as far as candle power. It's not on a dimmable switch, not on a switch that anyone could control. This would have to be actually set at the fixture itself through this, removing the screw and then adjusting that at the light.
Okay.
In other words, you'd have to have somebody adjust all the lights.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I never heard of a screw controlling the dimming
No.
of a light. I have
I
never
haven't
heard of
either.
that.
Well, it's on the spec sheet itself. It says featured adjustable and lockable beam angle integral dimmer.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a dimmer switch inside. It's a set screw. You take this little cap out, unscrew that, and then there's a control on the light itself.
Vincent, Vincent Messina, what do you think of the lighting so far, as far as the
Again,
wattage?
that would be up to our building inspector to make a determination on, and as long as he
Okay.
finds it compliant, I think the only thing that we need to make clear is that the board is not granting any kind of variance or deviation from code compliance. That could be worked out later between the applicant and the building inspector.
Okay.
So the pathway lights, the Hinckley pathway lights, since it's the down light, does it still need to be opaque glass, or it's not an up?
It would need to be shielded. I'm not seeing the 25 watt that Gerard is
Okay.
referencing, but
Here's an actual photograph of the light. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the actual photograph of the light.
So it looks like the bulb is up in the top and is not.
that may very well be the case, as long as the light source is not visible.
It looks like the light
I
source.
think that's probably in keeping with what we're looking for.
And
Yeah.
and
Go ahead.
excuse me, what is the wattage on that bulb? Is that an LED bulb, or what kind of bulb is that in the cap of the light?
1 second.
That was a 25 watt.
Yes, it's an incandescent 45 watt.
45 watt.
45.
It's 25.
25 watt.
Yes, sir.
Is it 25 watts, not 40?
Yeah.
Five.
It's 25 watt.
Okay.
25 watt.
I mean, it appears on those that it's shielded. that you don't
Yeah,
see?
it might be, it might be a frosted somewhat, or
Okay.
not frosted, but it's not totally clear.
It's not totally clear. It's translucent. It has
Yeah.
some translucent.
Yeah, I wasn't taking any, I didn't have an issue with those. It's
And if
just
you
the
go to
direct
change
straight
the
up.
bulb, yes, the bulb is seated way up in the in the hood. It's way up in that hood part.
Right.
Yeah, I think it'd be safe to say that the light source wouldn't be visible and they're down low. Yeah.
So that would be
It's just,
acceptable?
yes, I would think so. It's just those that are out on the columns where now it's a globe, totally frosted globe.
Yeah,
Most of your
I mean,
light,
you know, obviously the newer light is going to be a lot nicer looking, I would guess. And again, I don't really get an opinion on that. More traditional looking, let's say that. But we just would need to have it compliant. Perhaps frosted, perhaps, you know, as long as we have the right, you know, that it's a soft yellow.
well, most of the lighting would be down, right?
The
No,
only ones, yeah, the only ones that aren't are the columns. The only ones you're proposing that are not shielded are the coach lights that are on the columns that are currently globe lights.
Yeah,
That's correct. They're globe
Correct.
lights now, which are translucent, and it's unshielded at 360. These are, I guess, we would better told carriage lights, shielded at the top, and they're low voltage or low wattage incandescents, little candle lights.
What is the total wattage, given, how many are there? How many
There are
light
four.
bulbs are?
Yes,
Four.
there are 4, and the max is 75 watts. But you know, we could put in lower watt. You know, there's lower wattage. We haven't installed any of these yet, so
But
And-
it's still clear glass with a light on with a completely exposed bulb.
Yes.
could if we put a translucent bulb, would that be bring us in compliance, or would the actual lenses need to be made opaque, or rather translucent?
You meaning frosted, let's say?
Correct.
The
Oh,
glass.
Yeah,
needs to be-
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
Tom?
We
what
could
do you-
either
what-
put a frosted bulb. I guess my question is, or offer a solution. We could either put a frosted bulb.
Well, the frosted
another
bulb is,
solution
you're still
would-
going to see the light source. I mean,
Correct.
That's right.
you know, the code is the code. I don't know. But
Or we could
it's
put
not like we're,
frosted.
you know. Go ahead, sorry.
Would frosted glass be the best option, Tom, on this?
It would.
It would. Okay.
Yeah, you know, I can't speak to how it looks. It would be the best option for the code.
Well, Bob
Okay, great.
Hefner, what is your opinion on this frosted
Here.
glass? Or-
Well, the original, when the village first adopted this lighting code, we exempted traditional lamp lights like this with low wattage bulbs. I think it was, I forget what it was 25 or 30 watts,
25 watt.
perhaps. And when the lighting code was changed, I'm not sure if that exemption made it into the revised code or not. But it was in the original code that for the historic districts, we would exempt these kind of traditional lanterns with clear glass and low wattage bulbs, as we have at Village Hall. And we have at 88 Newtown Lane and a number of other places. They're quite common in the village.
Mhm.
Traditional copper lanterns, you know, with low wattage candelabras. So the intent was to allow those certainly in the historic districts. So as I said, I'm not sure when the lighting code changed, whether that was retained or not.
I would hope that to be the case, you know, quite frankly, as far as being traditional. I'm not seeing it here, but I would agree with that intent. Not sure where it leaves us, but I have black and white here, and I get the.
Vincent, what is your opinion on
Yeah,
the
I
lighting in
think-
general? All of it.
Again, I think that's nothing that needs to be determined here and today. I think that's
Okay.
something that Tom and the applicant can work out. And if there's an issue, I'm happy to assist.
Okay, perfect. So why don't we do this? Why don't Tom and the applicant, you want to work on the lighting, all of the lighting?
Mhm.
And then,
Certainly.
and then when you're finished with all this, we'll just take, I guess we should take the whole thing back and then just approve all of it. Is
you
that a
know,
good idea, or do you want to
You can,
approve?
yeah, you can approve it now if you wish,
Okay,
subject to, the approval of the
Okay.
lighting by the
Okay.
building inspector.
okay, why don't we do that? Okay, so board members, why don't we go ahead, we'll give it to Tom and he'll work it out with the applicant. But we could go ahead and approve everything now. So do I have a motion to approve the application?
One thing that we didn't discuss was the driveway, and does that have to be on a separate, that he added to at the end? The
We-
driveway turning to putting bluestone pebbles, right? Am I correct? You mentioned.
That's correct. Yes. So the existing condition is a very pot-marked, potholed driveway, which we've patched. And we're seeking to apply an emulsion. And then I took some bluestone gravel with the curb. We actually fixed up all the cobblestone curbing. And then I submitted, let me close this. We submitted a photograph of the gravel and the existing driveway in the background. So it's just common, you'd see this 3/8 cut bluestone in most driveways here in Hamptons.
I don't know.
Tom, is that code compliant?
Well, for the ADA space,
yeah.
you'd have to have a non-slip
Right.
surface. So you just have to
Exactly.
sweep
Thank you.
away the bluestone for the ADA ramp. Whatever your ADA route is, has to be a non-slip.
It's a good point. So we're not looking to have loose gravel. This would be adhered like but we didn't want to, we wanted to shy away from just blacktop, just a plain blacktop driveway. It doesn't add anything to the structure and the aesthetic, but it's just so commercial looking. So we thought this would be a nice, from a period or appropriate improvement. Again, it wouldn't be loose. It would be adhered. And actually do some of our streets. We did our street on Woodbine. The town put an emulsion down and then a gravel to just resurface. So the surface would stay the same, stay hard. It wouldn't be loose, and it'd be, adhered so you can walk on it with even say heels. And I thank you for bringing up the ADA. We wanted to make sure we're in compliance with that, and certainly it would just be a gravel surface that's hard and fast to the existing pavement.
So it's oil and stone, basically. It's going to get oiled and then stone, and then you're going to roll it in.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. You just have to sweep the the ADA route.
Exactly. It has to be swept
Other than that,
off.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Understood. Now, I did mention we have an issue with the storm drain I just want to, again, in the spirit of transparency and what we're doing, the storm drain floods in that area, even though the slight rain. So we wanted to do some maintenance and just fix the piping that goes to the cistern, so it doesn't flood anymore.
Hmm.
Tom, what is your
Well,
thought?
I mean, obviously on the subject property, right? You're talking about piping from when you say the storm drain, it's on the applicant's property, correct?
Correct. The storm drain.
Yeah,
is
so
in
you're
the
able to
driveway.
maintain, maintain that and provide good drainage. We would like that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
One
Thank
question,
you.
is the fence, the stockade fence that goes through the parking lot right now, is that temporary? Or is that a permanent?
That's temporary. That's
Okay.
temporary.
You don't sound convinced.
No. The stockade fence is shielding just a work area where we're working, they're working out of.
Okay.
But it's not permanent, I assure you.
Okay, okay.
If you'd like a letter to that effect, I'd be happy to provide that.
That's okay, as long as it's on the record now, that's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're very welcome.
Well, are there any other questions on the application? Anyone?
I did have, well, Gerard here, the fence, I just wanted to make sure that we covered the fence.
Mhm.
I know I mentioned it in our scope of work, but are there any questions on what we're installing? It will be cedared, it'll be spaced to match existing, and painted, primed and painted.
As usual. So you're removing what's there right now, correct?
Correct.
And will this fence will match the front fence across?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed the front fence, areas of it, will you repair it? It seems to be sort of damaged.
We would love to replace, we would love to replace it. But if in the meantime, if it needs to be repaired, we can do that as well. We'd love to remove and replace the existing old cedar fence with a new replica of the existing.
Okay.
And that's just a shot of what the wood, the cedar would look like, the spacing, the Gothic pickets match what's already there. And here's the exact spec. It's also contained in our application for the record.
So is this new fencing that you're putting up, or is it replacing existing?
This would be replacing existing, including an area where the hotel had started to install vinyl fence and the work was stopped. We would remove that as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
That's how I got involved. So I said, you can't just go ahead. It's an historic district. You need to submit an application, and get approval to do this sort of work.
Okay, good.
I don't have anything else on my list. I'll other than, as far as the lighting is, or could we approve any of it today, or do we still need to work? Do you need more information, or do you want to meet up, or?
Your lighting is going to be subject to the approval of the building inspector with respect to its code compliance.
Okay,
If we're doing what we had talked about doing a few moments ago, unless the board
Yes.
wants to go in a different direction.
okay. I just want to make sure I'm doing my part so we can
Yeah,
install.
no, and I think the board is trying not to drag you back here on,
I
you know.
appreciate that. Thank you so much. If, you know what, look, if we need to, we can, and we're here for you guys, and I appreciate the work you all do.
I would almost think that if that lighting is too bright, it can be tuned down. Is that right?
That is correct. Or if the source of light is desirable to be seen and does not comply, we can make these opaque or translucent. We can change the wattage of the bulb. We'll work with
The bulb.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, just to say, you know, I'm obviously fairly fresh on board here, and I'm not looking to overturn any, you know, I'm not looking to change the look of the village in a nice crystal clear, traditional looking light. And if the lighting code was not enforced as diligently in the past, I'm certainly not looking to overturn anything here.
Understood. I want to make sure we saw a visual on the tree. This was the tree we're looking to remove on the property.
Do you
Does that
plan on
make-
replacing it with anything else?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Do you plan on replacing it with anything else?
No.
Okay.
That is that on the property line, you said?
That is on the property line. Or near the property line, and I thought I had looking for the okay. So here's the tree. It is right. I don't know if you can see this on the site drawing, but it's at our property line here.
Yeah.
Do the limbs go into the neighbor's property?
That's really the problem. It's over their property and like near their house.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're worried it's going to come down. So
Yeah.
I guess either we take it down or it's going to come down. So
Did you, and you did receive a written permission from the neighbor?
we've been asked to do it. To my knowledge, I don't know if a letter was sent. I could obtain
Oh.
one, but
Yeah,
we've been approached. We've been approached several times to do it.
Well, Vincent, do you think that we should have a letter stating that they have the permission to remove or cut down the tree from the neighbor?
That would be a prudent.
I think you should.
Just legally, yeah.
Yeah, well, even still, it's just a prudent thing so that the board
Yeah,
has
absolutely.
a basis for its determination.
We'll obtain written permission or an approval from the neighbor, and we'll submit that.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay,
Does the
thank
village
you.
be notified about that, taking the tree down?
I beg your pardon?
Would the village be involved in taking the tree down?
No, the tree is squarely on our property.
Or on your property? You know,
Yeah.
showed on the map.
Yeah, the tree is direct on our property, you know, beyond any eminent domain or village responsibility.
Hey, Lisa.
All right.
I'm okay. How are you? Are you at the site? Great. Thank you.
I think we've covered all the topics here. Is it?
Yes.
I think it's
Okay.
okay to move on here.
Okay, yeah, so why don't we do this? We'll approve the items. You're gonna work with Tom, the building department, about the lighting. The only thing, the concern I have is the lights where you haven't exposed the 3 bulbs or 4 bulbs. I don't think we should see the light source. That's my opinion, but we can work that out.
Okay.
Maybe the glass should be frosted.
Or the bulbs frosted.
Or the bulbs.
Yeah.
Definitely frosted. And I actually think that, I mean, it's not a guiding light. It's not directing traffic or anything. It's just aesthetics. So at 75 watts, sometimes could be bright when it's not shielded. So maybe it wants to be 15 watts each.
Okay.
For a total of 45.
That would work.
Great.
Okay, so then that's being said, do I have a motion to approve this application?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
So we'll give it a second.
And all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, okay. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time and concern for our community. And I will definitely make sure that our client is in compliance.
Okay.
Thank you
Great.
so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Gerard.
Thank you. Oh, what's our next step? Do we wait for a letter or?
Tom?
Oh, well, as far as a letter, I mean, I won't be submitting a letter, but I guess that would be something that.
No, there's no letter.
There's no
Okay,
letter,
maybe-
but we will
There's nothing.
discuss it. We'll be in contact as we have been, Gerard, so.
Okay, thank you so much.
And, you know, thank you for being as responsive as you are.
Whatever you need from me, I'm here for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerard.
Thank you, Gerard.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I see that Mr. Moore, who
Yes.
represents 34 Hunting Lane, is on the line. If
yes.
you want to take him.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's take that. Good morning, Mr. Moore.
Good morning. Sorry, I only have audio, not video. I couldn't get it on the internet.
Okay. Can you describe the application, please, for 34 Hunting Lane?
Yeah, my client wants to replace all the windows in the house. I thought we were having a live meeting. I had a prototype made up of the window I was going to bring in with me. I met one of you gentlemen a couple months back at the house, and we walked through the house, and we came up with 6/1, which I believe you have shop drawings for. And he said the only issue would be in the front, that we could do on the 3 sides what we wanted. So the application is really for, you tell me, but really for the front, which comprises 9 windows in the front of the house. It takes the aluminum forms off, and then they're green mountain inserts, which you should have a picture of.
Yeah.
A picture of it in the yard.
Okay.
So I'm looking to replace those. Take the aluminum storms off and then replace the sashes. Leave the casing that's there on the inside and the outside.
Okay. Bob Hefner, what is your opinion on this?
Yes, well, I did meet with Mr. Moore a couple months ago at the house.
You did, okay.
Suggested that so I'm very glad that the casings are being retained, only the sash.
Correct.
So I think in our guidelines state that for replacing sash in historic houses, we look at the significance of the historic property and the significance of the windows. The district is general, and this house is not one of the most character defining houses on Hunting Lane. It's a house that's been altered previously. So in this case, I think replacing the sash is something that is consistent with the guidelines for the historic district.
Okay.
I don't see a problem with this application.
Okay, thank you, Bob, then. Okay. Any other questions from board members? Anyone?
No?
Okay. All right, then we would entertain a motion to approve this application. May I have a motion?
I'll make it a motion.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next application is 6 Woods Lane. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Robert.
everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Robert
Okay.
Stroud, I'm the managing member of Strata Baxter Design Build. And I'm here on behalf of Adam Sandow and his companies, Woods Lane LLC. As we all know, this is the house that is sort of iconic and the entrance to the historic district of our wonderful village. Our application is includes 3 items. One, as you see in the paperwork, one is the replacement of the existing electric lights, many of which don't really even work, with gas lanterns on the existing posts. The second item is to erect a front porch on an accessory building, which you'll see on the drawings as well as on the survey. And then the last item we want to discuss is the proposed restoration of the historic barn. So the first item, we have a rendering that you should have there. And that's a picture of the house where we're proposing to remove the existing electric lamps, and they're all in disrepair and not functioning, especially the one on the corner where Main Street meets Woods Lane. It's in pieces. The specifications of the lanterns are in strict accordance with New York State Building Code. Each lantern will be positioned on the existing fence post. It's a minimum of 54 inches high above the sidewalk along Woods Lane and on Main Street. And these are really beautiful, handcrafted, made in the United States gas lanterns made by Bavolo. And this is our first request, to replace the electric lights with these beautiful gas lanterns. The second item we want to discuss is this accessory building. There's a survey, which you all have. There's that enormous sheet of paper produced by Wallbridge, which will take up everybody's desk. But the purpose of it is to show you that there is an existing accessory structure that was also in an application going back to May 23rd, 1989, where the site plan describes this structure as the laundry house. And in the notes that I've managed to obtain from the DRB file, they've dated March 29th, 1990, Fred Mangoni was approved to move that building. So back in 1990, he moved the building 18 inches further south of where it was at the time, so that it would comply with the ZBA requirements, and he did that, as you can see on that survey. Now, Bob Hefner, I'm glad you're here. Bob Hefner wrote back in December of '89, the small dependency recalls the early 20th century period when this farm became a small summer estate. And if you would just simply go to the third page of our drawings, it's labeled A01. That is the sheet that talks about proposing to put a porch on this accessory building. And when you reference the Walbridge survey, you'll see that the porch conforms to the 20-foot setback. And in addition to that, the design and the materials used for the porch are not going to be the plastic that's used on the current balustrade and porch railings, but actually of a proper cedar material that will look like the existing on the house, but will be made of wood. The spacing conforms to DOB requirements. You can see there's a note there that there's a 3 3/4 inch space between each of the balusters. The drawing refers to them as spindles. And so that's the porch. The only thing that changes on that existing accessory structure is adding a porch. The door stays the same. It's essentially taking the same number of steps, although we might have to add, no, it's the same number of steps to the grade. The windows, nothing else changes on the building. We're not deleting anything. We're only proposing to add a porch. So then the third item that I want to talk about is the proposed barn restoration. And there, if you go to our drawing, which is existing number 11, that's the first drawing you see in the barn drawing set. It shows how the interior was subdivided from the original interior of the barn. They created a raised platform and they added some corresponding partitions to basically implement the approval of a cabana. I should have included this drawing in your set, but this drawing goes back to 1989.
Right.
As you can see, if you'd like to see it, as you can see, it was approved to take an existing apartment and turn it into this cabana. Part of that approval was granted to install a doorway and 2 windows in the west elevation, and to remove 1 window from the west elevation, and to build a brick landing and steps to this new doorway, all on the west elevation. And that's what we have today. So if you would go to the next drawing, existing 12, you see where this loft area was created to kind of implement this cabana idea. And we have it shown as the loft, and you can see the steps down to the base of the barn. The flooring was paved. So the floor, excuse me. So the flooring, it's Monday. So the flooring, there is no flooring. I mean, there's some flooring, but basically the majority of the floor is concrete. And I'll deal with how we want to change that in a moment. So what you have is sort of a bastardized barn. I mean, this has really been messed with over the years. It was originally red. I mean, that's how I remember it. It was a red barn. You could see it from the road somewhat, but it was painted white. And the owner would like to keep it white. We're not proposing any changes like that. So if you go to existing drawing 13, you begin to see some of the elevations, but it's really in existing drawing 14 that I want to show you how the exterior of the original barn was changed to install this doorway and the window and the brick landing to the steps that lead to this new doorway. All of that was added in 1990 and is unbarn-like, to say the least. And just before I go on, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Adam Sandow's intent. I mean, his intent is really to restore the barn and really using true restoration techniques. And that's why we've been talking about it for a while, for months. And as Bob Hefner would know, that we would use our experience with restoration work to use like-kind materials and follow the Secretary of the Interior standards for the preservation of historic buildings to see that the barn was brought back to being a barn again. Now, Strata Baxter has restored 5 barns in 10 years. And the 2 that are most like this, in my mind, are the Captain Isaac Sayer barn for the Southampton Historical Museum, which Bob Hefner did the historic structure report. And that was a barn that we basically restored using the Secretary of the Interior standards, using all like-kind materials, all white oak, and used as much of the original structure as we could, including these enormous purlins, an integral part of that barn design. And we intend to use as much of the original barn here, of course, in this restoration. But the other project, I mentioned there were 2 that this reminds me of. The other one is a project that we did for Bill Campbell in his recreation of the Topping Rose Inn in Bridgehampton. And that is the Topping Rose barn. That is an original Bridgehampton potato barn. I mean, it is a drop girt barn, and we restored that to be a barn. But Campbell uses it in a kind of delightful way as part of his restaurant. So while you have this historic structure and it's correct, you know, the use and some of the modifications that they made for then Tom Colicchio to run his kitchen staff through and do things like that did not affect the timber frame structure. Let's go to the renderings if we can. So what you're looking at in this first rendering is that quite a bit of the west elevation, the side of the barn, the gable side of the barn, has been modified over the years. We propose to bring it back to what it was originally as a timber frame structure. It would match what's on the other side, the east elevation. And that's what you see in the first rendering. The second rendering just shows you how the traditional cladding will be put on, the sheathing, and then the cedar shingles. And then finally, in the third image, what you see there is a west elevation that has all of the correct timber frame structure, but is clad in glass. Now, this is only the west elevation. And when you look at that final rendering and you realize that this is a fully restored timber frame structure, and I'd like to actually grab Bob Hefner's comments from back then. The barn was previously altered when an apartment was built in the west end. That's this same area, the west elevation. This included introduction of 4 windows. And therefore, the present proposal, meaning back in 1989, the present 1989 proposal does not alter the 18th century barn, but continues in a similar fashion the type of alteration already introduced to this part of the barn. And the altered west facade, this is critical, the altered west facade is also not visible from the street, you know, not Main Street, not Woods Lane. Furthermore, again, these are Bob's words, furthermore, the alterations will not affect any of the 18th century framing of the barn. I couldn't have said that better myself. So, and then I'd like to just tell you, just to wrap up, a little bit about who Adam Sandow is, because he's not from here. He's from Florida. He lives and has recently created a very modern, uniquely modern house where he lives in Florida. And on a visit to East Hampton, fell in love with Mangoni's house and purchased it. Also, a little something about Sandow. He knows the significance of this building, this property, to the village, to the historic district, but to the entire village. And he made sure last December that all of the holiday lights were lit. Now, he didn't own the property at the time, but he made sure they were on for this past holiday. Another thing I'd like to mention about him is that when he did finally take possession, he thought he would begin by replacing windows, which he did not, because we explained to him that isn't what we do here. And he understood that. So what you're looking at are all the original windows. There's some new glass because the glass was a mess, but only this, all of the sashes were completely restored, including the diamond sashes on the porch. Now, another thing about Sandow is I introduced him, Bob, I don't know if this was a good thing to do or not, but I introduced him to Richard Barron's over at the Moran House. And all the two of them could talk about was publishing and historic buildings. So he's into this, very much so. And then finally, he has committed, he has committed to, maybe this is a minor thing, but he's committed to having the house on the house tour next November 2022 for the 100th anniversary of the East Hampton Historical Society banner year 2022. This house will be on the house tour. That's about all I have to say. If there are any other questions I can answer, I'm happy to do that. Any other information I can provide.
Well, thank you. And the house does look beautiful. I think everybody who passes by it have noticed the tremendous amount of work that has gone on over there to restore it. Bob, after, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think the important thing about this application in a way is what's not in it, and that the property is really not being changed at all. I mean, there is the potential for expansion of the house, but that's not being proposed.
Correct.
The house is being kept exactly as it is, which is the thing. And these changes are all somewhat modest. Taking the barn, this is one of our, I think it's a handful of 18th century timber frame barns in the village. We certainly appreciate our barns. In fact, when the historic district was created in 1986, we didn't actually include that barn because I didn't know that it was there. And when we discovered it wasn't, we did expand the district to include it. And for the barns, the timber frame is the important thing. So in this case, the timber frame is being restored, and that's good. And the treatment of the west wall with glass doesn't really, it does sort of go with our guidelines that rear walls can have more glass. I think the important thing is the restoration of the timber frame. The glass wall isn't seen from the street. It's certainly something that could be reversed in the future if someone else wanted to, make that wall look more like a traditional barn. I don't see any problem with that. And it is a pool house, so that's a different use where a glass wall makes some sense. The little laundry building is a significant building for the Moran property because Mary Nimmo Moran painted it. And it was probably moved because it was probably on the property line since Moran bought that property from the owner of the Mangoni house, or Six Woods Lane. I don't think that the porch on the front really affects the integrity of that laundry building at all. And from Moran, it will look exactly the same. The lights on the fence posts, I think for the historic district, there's not any issue with the gas light. I suppose we have the same question that came up with the Hunting Inn about whether in the historic districts traditional lanterns are allowed with low wattage. I suppose some idea of how the gas flame would compare to incandescent light would be something important to know.
Can I
I'll
address
I'll
that?
just, oh, sorry, I'll just comment, briefly right now there are incandescent and I'm assuming that this glare would be a lot less actually. And, obviously
Thank you.
more traditional.
The idea, and Tom, you should know that we've made sure that these conform to the New York State Building Code. And they do. As far as brightness and as far as the type of light that it gives off, these are much less brighter than an incandescent or an LED bulb. There is a flickering. I mean, there is an actual flame that is safe and enclosed. And I think they're quite beautiful. We prototyped one just to see what it would look like. We put it on a post outside the back porch off the kitchen before we even thought of proposing this, just to see how is this going to work. And it's really very special, and it's not bright. I think this is going to be a wonderful improvement. But I've only lived here 42 years, and Carl Dayton can comment on whether, with all the time he spent here, whether this is appropriate or not. But I think it is. I think it'll be very special.
And as you know, there is, I'm sure you've seen it, but there is a light, somebody on Newtown Lane across from the middle school, that little house there, they have little gas lights also, which really looks very nice. It's a nice touch, I think.
Yeah.
It goes with the house. That I don't believe it's going to be too bright, because you have a flickering flame in the light that it's not going to be bright enough to light up a driveway or anything like that.
No.
But I think the appearance of it, I think, would look good.
Great. Anybody else does anyone have any comments on this application?
We have gas lanterns on my front porch on Cooper Lane, and I'm very partial to the gas lanterns. I do love the look. They can be hot to the touch, and I know, especially on Main Street, being close to the sidewalk, if there's any consideration about that. Ours.
We did give it consideration. We may, I don't mean to cut you off, but just so that you know, I may have not said this, but they're sitting on top of the existing fence posts, and the flame is over 5 feet off the. So if you're concerned even about, as I was, the first thing I thought of was little children who may want to be interested in touching this, but it's so high that it's beyond code. Tom, I think code is 54 inches. Well, yeah, so this is even higher than that. So we have thought about that.
Okay.
Is there anything you could do to protect it from the grown-ups?
I'm worried about the gun-toting grown-ups. That's all. A great target. No.
Maybe you could put some barbed wire up there.
Well, if it becomes a problem, I know Adam Sandow. He will change it. He will fix it.
Yeah, but he may not always own it. So in fairness, I mean,
True. No,
we do what we can do, and that's that.
Right.
Are they made out of raw iron, or is it raw iron, or what are they made out of?
They're made out of steel, and they're made out of a copper cladding that's applied to it. It conforms to all of the underwriter codes needed in our state and in probably every state, and they're used throughout the country. They're made by, if you'd like to look it up even further, they're made by a company in the South called Bevolo, Bevolo, and they have some really pretty wacky designs. This is not one of them. They have a lantern that they call the bat flame, which looks more like a blowtorch. This is a very modest fixture, lantern. In fact, that's what they call it. It's a lantern.
Makes it look like an old carriage lamp.
Yes, it does. It really does.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, then may I have a motion to approve the application?
I'll make the motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Cheryl. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Special thanks to Robert Strada on this project. All your projects, you take a lot of time and effort, and they always look great. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank your client also.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
It is a beautiful estate, no question about it.
Yeah.
I know, I feel like it's coming back to life or something, you know,
Yeah.
watching all the work.
You have an owner who's not here to antagonize the various boards in the community. You know, I never really knew Fred Mangoni, but Pam Bennett and Linda Beyer were kind enough to provide me with all sorts of materials going back years. And when you read this file, you know, it's like a novel. It's a lot has been attempted, but boards like yours have managed to keep this from really getting out of hand. And that's why, Amy, that's why it looks the way it looks today. Right.
Yeah, really beautiful.
It's what you do. Thank you.
Yeah, and also, again, thank you very much, and thank your client when you speak to him. And we need more people. We need more people to care that much about the village of East Hampton.
That's
And
true.
it's historic houses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Be well.
Thank you so much, Robert. Do I have any questions, any comments from the board in general on any of the items or anything in general? Pam, do we have any questions or any other materials?
You have nothing else.
Okay. Then may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Cheryl. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
thank you all and see you at the next meeting. Have a
you.
great day.
You too.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. It's beautiful out.